Good evening, Gooners. JC here from We Are Arsenal. I'm joined by two special guests so that we can digest, if you haven't already in the last 24 hours, the horrible and awful defeat at the hands of Everton. But before we get into things, I'm just going to run you guys a little intro and I'll let the chaps introduce themselves. Those two always put a little bit of a smile on my face, but I don't think it's going to be enough after the last two results. Anywho, first up to introduce themselves, we have Neil from Cannon FC. Let the people know who you are and where they can find you, my friend.
Hey everyone, Cannon FC. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram as Neil the Realtor. Yes, I'm a real estate agent here in Florida, and as well as Facebook. So check out my channel, and hope to see you there.
Brilliant. A pleasure to have you on for now the second time, and definitely not the last. And up next, we've got Keith. Again, introduce yourself, my friend, and let the people know where they can find you.
Hello everyone, my name is Keith and I'm an Arsenal supporter. You can also find me on Twitter as the Mad Rambling One, and I've got a channel called Mostly Arsenal on YouTube, where I talk mostly about Arsenal and sometimes about other stuff as well. And as I said, I'm not very happy at the moment, so this could be quite epic this evening. But thanks for having me on again, Jake, and nice to see you again, Neil.
I think you've put it quite politely there, to be honest with you. A lot of very angry, frustrated fans at the moment, to say the very least. But before we dive into things, guys, drop a like on the stream, subscribe if you're new around here, and both Neil and Keith's details are down in the description below. So don't forget to take their details, follow and subscribe to their channels as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off fairly light before we get into the thicker things, the meat and potatoes, if you will, and starting with Neil, a nice easy one. What were your thoughts when you saw the lineup, whenever it was you saw it, and then also your general reaction? Don't go too deep. We'll get into that in a later part of today's stream, but thoughts on the lineup and general reaction after 90 minutes.
I kind of expected Kieran to come in the team. At left back, and I was surprised with Xhaka coming in, knowing his injury and everything and his expected return. With regards to the full-time feeling, I'm not even sure if it's gutted or I don't know. I was just so angry that I had no expression. That's how I felt.
Yes, we are going to go through quite a few different moments this evening. We'll talk about some players individually as well. Keith, again, same question. General thoughts on the lineup. I think obviously Xhaka is the biggest surprise to everyone, and your thoughts after 90 minutes, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. I expected Tierney to come back in. He was due to come back in. There are rumours that there was some friction between him and Arteta about him not being able to get back in the side. I think it was probably the right game to bring him back in. Obviously the Xhaka one, that's the one that got everyone, and I was expecting him to be in the squad, but I wasn't expecting him to be starting after it was a pretty nasty injury. He's been out for a long time, and put straight back in as a starter. I said this could come back and bite him on the backside if this goes wrong, and as we get into it, there were aspects of it that was proved that it probably was the wrong decision to start him. And much same as Neil at the end of the game, it was just a little bit, here we go again. This may not be our first December rodeo, because we all remember what happened last season. But yeah, just gutted and very, very miserable about the whole thing at the moment, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a very, very tough one to take, especially after the way we lost at United. I was expecting a reaction from the lads myself, a similar sort of reaction to the one we gave at Newcastle, maybe a bit of a lethargic performance potentially, maybe taking our time to get going before winning the game. But Everton were just up for it. They were way more up for it than we were. And
Sorry, guys.
No, that's okay. The Kieran Tierney one, in terms of him starting for me at least, it wasn't a surprise. But my anger here is that he was clearly struggling in the second half, mainly due to lack of game time. And it should have been a substitution that was made far, far earlier in the game, especially with the amount of joy we were having out wide, which we'll see in some of the heat maps later in today's stream. Xhaka, I have to agree with you, Keith. It was a massive shock to me that he started, same as you, Neil. Again, fair enough, he started, he's been out for 2 months. Why did he stay on the pitch longer than 45 to 60 minutes? It was way, way, way too long for me. Or we could have done it the other way around, where you bring him on with 20 minutes to go, get him some minutes in the tank, and move forward through December. In terms of the characteristics, the characters and the mentality of these boys, it's been fantastic in that 10-game unbeaten run that we had. It was really, really good. And I've already referenced the Liverpool game and how we bounced back after that. What are you coming to you first, Neil, what are you starting to see with the mentality and character of these players? Because it seems as though it's a similar story to previous seasons where things are falling apart and we're not seeing the leaders, we're not seeing that bounce back ability, that taking the game by the scruff of the neck when someone needs to.
It seems as if not having that leader or the leadership in the team is hurting this team a lot. And you can see it. You can see it in the performances once we go down in terms of goals. The shoulders drops, the heads drop. Like, what's even going on in the locker room going to halftime sometimes? Like, who's firing up these players? There's a bunch of new faces, a ton of new faces, but it seems to just have that old Arsenal feel to it. We go down a couple goals and our heads drop. We lose our composure, loose passing again. Like, what's going on with this team?
It's very, very frustrating to say the least. And we'll talk about tactics in just a moment, because I think this whole sitting deep whilst going 1-0 up, or just sitting deep in general, has to be a tactical thing. There's no way that Arteta isn't, for me, now that I've seen it happen on so many occasions. If it was a naive young side, Arteta would be working on that on the training ground for me, and he'd be stamping it out of the game. So for me, it's clear to see that it's something that's being implemented by Arteta. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. What are your thoughts on the question I just asked, Neil, Keith?
Looking at the thing that I'm noticing the last 2 games is we're all aware that when we go a goal up, there's this sitting off and we're inviting teams back onto us. And once the other team gets a foothold, whether it be possession or territorially or both, it's almost like you can see the self-belief just drain out of the players. And we're getting the life pressed out of us by teams, and they're now realising, right, this is what we do with Arsenal. We press them and they lose their self-belief. And we are sitting far too deep. Like you, is it something that Arteta's setting up for tactically? Is it something the players are doing and something he doesn't want? If it's something that they're doing and he doesn't want, that's equally as worrying, because they're not carrying out his game plan. And it concerns me that quite often he'll come out in the post-match interview and he'll say they haven't carried out my game plan, or last night he said the players weren't good enough. He shouldn't be saying stuff like that in public. He should be backing his players in public and then giving it to them behind closed doors, saying, look, I've just backed you up. It's almost like he doesn't want to take the blame for it. And if he did take the blame in public and then ripped into them in the dressing room, I guarantee you these players will be prepared to run through a brick wall for him. But if they're sat there thinking he's just fed us to the dogs, they're not going to want to play for him.
No.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that maybe in the past he has defended them in the media and then gone and ripped them a new one behind closed doors, and that hasn't worked. So maybe he's thinking let's try something else. But Emery done a similar thing towards the end of his reign at Arsenal, and that didn't end well. There were rumours for months and months and months that he'd lost the changing room, and some of the senior players were openly making fun of him. I'm not saying that it will get to that with Arteta, but as soon as it becomes a slanging match, it never ends well.
No.
In my opinion, it's going to have to get a lot worse for Arteta to get sacked because of where we find ourselves in the season. And everyone will always compare it to what's been going on at Man United recently with Ollie, unfortunately, and similarly to Frank Lampard last season. If he was to go, who would you bring in? Does Mertesacker take over till the end of the season? Is there a manager out there that we really want? So for me, it's going to have to get a lot worse before we see the back of Arteta. I've always been Arteta in, and I'm not quite there yet in terms of Arteta out. Although, if you read social media, a lot of people who were on the fence and unsure up until a few weeks ago are slowly starting to make that... It's slow. Not in the aggressive and abusive way that some of the Arteta out brigade behave on social media, but I think some of the proper fans, shall we say, are now being left sort of unconvinced. We're not going to go on this point too much. Just a quick answer on this. Neil, are you Arteta in or out at the moment, mate?
I'm getting to the point. No, I want him to do well. I said it to you guys offline. And
Same.
I'm getting to the point where he's just losing. He's losing my trust, and I think I'm to the point. I'm going to say it now. I'm out. I'm Arteta out.
And Keith?
I'm going to say it now. Why wait?
Fair?
No.
Fair?
Similar to you, Jake, I've always been Arteta in, and although not being Arteta out at the moment, I'm not as in as I was. Same as you, I've lost trust. Some very strange decisions. The substitutions, just we'll obviously get into that in a little while. But yeah, my trust in him is wavering quite a lot at the moment. Definitely been a shift.
Yeah, there's been a big shift, and since yesterday, there's been all sorts of conversations online about what should happen, who we should bring in, and whatever else. Next up, we've got heat maps, shape, passing shape, pressing, however you want to kind of look at it. Use this information, don't use this information. This is where we typically tend to talk about tactics, whether or not Arteta got it right, the shape, the lineup, all that kind of good stuff. Starting with you, Keith. Tactically, what do you make of Arsenal at the moment? Because for me, this whole sitting deep thing, as I've mentioned in some of our offline chats, it reminds me of the way, with all respect, the lesser teams play in the Premier League, the Newcastles, the Burnleys, the Crystal Palaces, where they soak up pressure and hit teams on the attack. For some reason, this seems to be the new default now for Arsenal. Previously, I thought it was when we were 1-0 up, but yesterday, all the way up until the goal, we were pretty much soaking up pressure. What are your thoughts on the way Arteta's kind of lining up the boys at the moment?
I really don't care for it, to be honest. It's far too defensive.
Yeah.
And when you look at our better performances, that's when we've been pressing high.
Yeah, agree.
You know, it's really. I think it's really quite simple. It goes one of two ways. You press high and then you impose your game on the opposition. If your press is much deeper and it's not even a press, they're pressing you, then you're inviting them onto you, and it's one or the other. And it's almost like we're set up for damage limitation right from the start.
Yeah.
And it just sets the tone. The first 5 minutes are so important. And last night, it just set the tone for the entire game. And, you know, we were hanging on. The two Richarlison disallowed goals, you know, if there was no VAR, they're both given. They were so
100%.
tight, and it's too defensive for me, and it's not fun to watch, to be honest, Jake.
It's not.
It's not fun to watch. And looking at the shape there on the right hand side graphic, the gap between White and Gabriel there, that concerns me massively. You could drive a bus through that. Talk about parking bus, you could drive it through there.
It's do you know what the really concerning thing is as well? Not just the gap between Gabriel and White, but because of where Lacazette is playing so far out on the left hand side, when the opposition is picking up the ball in a central defensive area and want to play a ball out from the back, they've only really got to go through two players before they're at our back four. I don't know if you both watched the last show that I did with Albert and RJ, but Aubameyang played up front and he was pretty much in exactly the same position as where Lacazette is now. So I get playing out wide and trying to exploit maybe players that haven't played this season like we did against Manchester United. You had Dalot and Telles. I get trying to exploit it that way, but it seems to be a plan of Arteta's to play really, really wide, double or even in some cases here, triple up, which is leaving, as you said, Keith, Ben White and Gabriel with a lot of work to do, getting dragged out of position. And with the way Partey's playing at the moment, there isn't a shield. There isn't a player who can drop in and make it up as a back three and allow Gabriel to push out as a left back or Ben White to push out as a right back. So yeah, it's tactically for me, there's a lot of worry there. Neil, what are you making of the way Arsenal are setting up at the moment, both from a defensive as well as an offensively?
Well, I mean, we really don't have an offense to think. If you think about it, like, how are we? The entire team is literally defending. They're lying so deep. Look at how far Xhaka is. He's the most forward player that we have at the moment on that right hand side. Everyone else is more or less defending, and to Keith's point, with Gabriel and White being so far from each other, and with that big gap, Thomas Partey is not even playing. I don't know bro. Let me tell you, I'm like on an elastic band right now. If you just release me, I'm going to just go on a rant. This team, this formation, whatever this idea he has, it's not working. It is not working at all. We see it. Why would we go to Everton? They're there for the killing. You just have to pull the guillotine and the blade is going to drop on their head. That's where they were. Rafa Benitez's head was on the chopping block for this game. And we somehow, I don't know, they broke their duck against Arsenal. For how much other teams did it before? You want to break your duck? Come play Arsenal. This is not working. It's really not working. I'm sorry, man. I'm going off on a tangent, but it's not working.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Really not working.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think the other thing that's quite concerning for me is he seems to have... he seems to have changed it after... He seems to have changed a winning formula for me. Because, like you touched on, Keith, when we played against that first 30 minutes against Leicester, that first half against Aston Villa, that first half against Spurs, I'm not seeing that Arsenal. I'm not seeing that Arsenal set up the way it's set up now. And he's changing too many players for me. We took Ainsley Maitland-Niles out of the lineup after a man of the match performance against Watford. We took Sambi Lokonga out after Newcastle in what I thought was a man of the match performance. Where are these players? Where are these? And again, I'm absolutely flabbergasted at the fact that Sambi didn't play against Newcastle. I was absolutely convinced he was going to play against Everton. Absolutely convinced. But again, surprised by the decisions that Arteta has made, among other decisions that we will touch on, including his substitutions. But if Arteta wants to keep his job, as I said, it's going to have to get a lot worse before we even come close to getting rid of Arteta. He needs to start making changes, because at the moment it just isn't working. Anyway, before we get into the next part of today's live stream, please do drop a like on the video, turn the notification bell on, subscribe to the channel. Do not forget to subscribe to Keith and Neil's channels as well. All details down in the description below. I hope you're enjoying the stream as well, and it's been a little bit ranty. It's not normally what we do on the channel, but at the end of the day, Arsenal are not playing very well at the moment, and it's difficult to talk positively when there's not much to talk positively about. Unfortunately, it just is the way it is. Okay,
Jake,
so
can I say something real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Let me just say this real quick. The chopping and changing of the team is a sign of his inexperience as a manager. That's one. Two, I don't know what the relationships are like with him and the more senior-ish type players, but that in itself as well, him being as inexperienced as he's not gaining the respect of these players, and hence they're not playing for him, like the Nicolas Pepes. How could you even? Anyways, I'm sure you're gonna talk about that down the road. Let me stop that.
It's okay. We will talk about certain decisions shortly. One of the decisions, or one of the players around certain decisions that should or maybe might not have needed to be made, I don't know. I'll grab your opinions on it now. Thomas Partey is the first player that I want to speak of, and he was very poor against Manchester United. He came out after the game and he even said himself that, you know, he's playing way below the level that he expects him to play at. He's even given himself a 4 out of 10 rating for the season, maybe even his career at Arsenal so far, which, you know, takes a big man to come out and say that publicly, which is good, and I expected a big performance from him. Thomas Partey lost the most duels out of any player on the pitch at Everton yesterday. And yes, you can see that he's had some good pass completion. He's been very involved in the game with his touches and all that kind of thing. But again, he lost the ball way too many times to me in dangerous places. Keith, what were your thoughts generally on Thomas Partey in the Everton game?
Firstly, I'm amazed his pass completion rate was as high as 90%.
So am I.
To start with, he was keeping it well. His retention was good, and he was moving it around quite well. I thought, here we go. And then it went back to how it was against Man U. And, you know, like you, I mean, I'm full of respect for him for coming out and, you know, giving himself such a poor score out of 10.
Yeah.
But, you know, talk is cheap. I was expecting much more from him on the pitch last night. And the fact that he's lost possession 14 times. And, I mean, between him and Xhaka, they've lost it 32 times, and they're our central midfield defensive pivot.
Yeah.
I know Everton were pressing the life out of it, but that's ridiculous. And I'm starting to think maybe he's the sort of player who, I mean, he was an absolute colossus in La Liga, but maybe he's the sort of player he's just not cut out for the Premier League. I don't know, because I've not really seen him improve since his first game.
It's a tough one. I do agree with you. You know, in La Liga he was absolutely fantastic, and it wouldn't be the first time that a big player has come from a big league. La Liga is a good league, but just hasn't adapted well for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because the physicality and the pace of the game is too much for him. Is it because we haven't found the right midfield partner? And that was another thing that shocked me about playing Xhaka yesterday. Nothing against Xhaka, but the fact that he hadn't played for 2 months and Thomas Partey's been horrible recently, to play them two in midfield was a disaster waiting to happen, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Neil, what were your thoughts on Thomas Partey's performance yesterday against Everton, mate?
Poor. You know, again, he coming out and giving himself a 4 out of 10. You know, I think, you know, is he looking for sympathy from the fans? You know, to come out and say something like that? Yeah, it's pretty big of him, but on one hand, but on the next hand, he's probably looking for sympathy as well. he hasn't had many good games since putting on the Arsenal shirt. I could probably count on one hand how many good games he had.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on. And you may be right, Keith. He may just not be cut out for the Premier League.
Yeah, it's not nice to see, because I was, like many Arsenal fans, when he signed for Arsenal, at the time we were crying out for a top midfield player, and I thought £45 million as well from a team like Atletico Madrid, it was an absolute steal. I know they didn't really have much choice because of his release clause, but I thought it was an absolute steal at the time. And I'm just hoping, for whatever reason, that maybe the injuries last season has slowed down him adapting to the Premier League. Maybe we buy someone in January in midfield, the perfect partner for Partey, and things change. That's what I'm hoping happens, but something in midfield needs to change, and needs to change fast. Okay, so one of a few positives over the last game or two, surprisingly, has been Martin Odegaard. He's had a lot of criticism, which I think was probably fair, because he's been underwhelming since officially, permanently signing for Arsenal. But over the last two games, barring the stupid penalty that he gave away, he scored 2 goals with late runs into the box at really crucial times for Arsenal. Coming to you first this time, Neil. Putting aside for a second how bad Arsenal were as a unit yesterday, Martin Odegaard in general, what were your thoughts on his performance yesterday? 4 key passes, a goal, 91% pass completion, even getting involved in a few tackles along the way.
Yeah, I thought he had a fair game. He even had a few other opportunities to put the ball in the back of the net, with some crucial tackles coming in from Everton to stop the ball from even getting to their keeper. I think he had like 2 really, really good opportunities in front of goal. With Godfrey, didn't know how he was pit, but that's a topic for another time, I guess.
We're going to come on to that. Don't you worry. That's next. That's next slide. We're going to talk about that.
I guess. Yeah, walking on people's faces is okay. But anyways,
I do it every day.
Yeah,
it's fine.
He's probably. But I think I hope that he with more runs and games, and he's getting in there. It's probably building confidence. He's probably coming out of his shell a little bit more. We're probably gonna see a player in Martin Odegaard.
Yeah. I think we've got to remember that he hasn't even been at Arsenal for a year yet. We signed him on loan in late January, so he's still adapting. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he hasn't always featured in an Arsenal shirt. But I've been impressed with him the last few games, and I was quite interested to see the dynamic between him and Lacazette yesterday. It obviously didn't come off. It didn't pay off, but it was nice to see a different lineup in an attacking sense with those two. I think it would have been a little bit better maybe to see how it would have gone with Emile Smith-Rowe in the side, maybe instead of a Xhaka, because he needs a rest. Because there were times last season where Smith-Rowe and Odegaard in the same lineup, they played really, really well together. Anyway, Keith, what were your general thoughts on his performance against Everton yesterday?
I thought he started quite slow. First 20-30 minutes, I kind of wasn't really aware of him being in the game.
Yeah.
But it seemed to go into it. I'm thinking he has been a little bit underwhelming since he signed the permanent deal. But I remember when he first came on loan, I felt a little bit like that. And when he got a run of games, he seemed to influence the game a lot more. So maybe he's the sort of player who just needs a run in the team. And maybe you've got to forsake a few slower performances at the start of the run. He definitely grew into the game yesterday. And the one thing that really impressed me, the last time I saw him press like he was in the second half was the North London derby, when him and Orbit were they were both pressing together, and that was super effective. He definitely grew into the game yesterday. And I know our good friend Tony's just pointed out that there's a bit of a curse now when he scores, we lose.
I saw that as well, yeah.
Maybe it's going to get a bit like the Aaron Ramsey curse, I don't know.
Oh.
Hopefully not that bad.
Yeah.
But, as the game went on, he did better. I mean, he's playing in the hole, so the majority of his passes are attack-minded passes, and the fact that he's still come out with 91%, they're pretty decent numbers, to be honest. I thought he was one of the brighter lights last night. Anyway.
Yeah, he certainly was for me. A separate question now for you both. It's just popped into my head. I wasn't planning on asking actually, but now that I think about it, Odegaard, when he did feature at the start of the season, on the odd occasion, people were accusing him of going missing. I think Brighton was the one that comes to mind most. Do you think that he is finding it difficult to make passes in forward passes, create goals because of the problems we're having with players like Lacazette and Aubameyang? Because their confidence is low, they may be questioning themselves in terms of their movement, their positioning, where they are in front of goal, because there's only so much Odegaard can do to put that ball on a plate, not necessarily always on a plate, for people like Aubameyang and Lacazette. What do you think of that, Neil? Do you reckon that might be partially down to why he's had so much criticism?
I mean, yeah, that's a variable. He himself probably doesn't even have the faith in those guys because they're run a form at the moment. I think that's a good point. That's a really good point. But then again, there are other players that he could do forward passing too. Recently, we saw Martinelli come into the team. There's Xhaka, who makes those runs as well. He may not need to play a straightforward pass. He may need to be to the side a bit, but out on the wing. But still, he hasn't really been doing that, to be honest. So yeah, that's a really good point.
Keith?
I think the point you made about the strikers and the lack of confidence, I think there is an element of that to it. When you're confident, things come a lot more easily. You've got a more of a spring in your step. The runs a striker would make would be more intuitive, more instinctive. Whereas when their confidence is low, they're kind of stopping and second guessing themselves before they make that movement. So I think that's got a lot to do with it. And the guy's not a miracle worker. He can't do everything for him. But on top of that, I don't think our tactics, as we were discussing just now on the last slide with the deep press, the tactics we're employing, they're not doing him any favours because we're so defensive. I'm hopeful that he'll get a run in the side and that will convince his best mate to come and sign for us. We'd probably have to sell the entire stadium for him. But that's my dream scenario at the moment.
That would be nice. There's going to have to be some really dodgy under the table dealings, I think, to convince him to come and play for Arsenal. With
the envelopes of money.
Oh, but that would be an absolute dream. Maybe if we're lucky, you can put a little word in.
I doubt we could afford his big toe, to be honest.
He's going to be one of the highest paid players in the world when he moves from Dortmund, isn't he? Easily.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to finish this section at least on Granit Xhaka, who splits the fan base, to put it politely. I don't have a problem with Xhaka at the moment. When he played for Arsenal at the start of the season, barring the stupidity at City, he's shown that he can be an important player for Arsenal. I think it would be unfair to judge him based on yesterday's game because, yes, he's fit potentially. Is it a self-admission that he's fit? I don't know. I think he should have been brought off after 60 minutes. Keith, what were your thoughts generally about Granit Xhaka? Did he have a good game? Should he have come off earlier? Was it right to keep him on the whole game? What were your thoughts?
Firstly, regarding the division on Xhaka, I struggle to forget about when he threw the armband down, so that's always in the back of my head. and I try not to let that affect my judgment when we're talking about any particular performance. Just wanted to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Last night I thought he did all right. As we said, we were shocked he was starting. I think it was a really big mistake to A, start him, and B, to leave him on for so long. I feel a little bit like Arteta left him in it, really. He wouldn't have got the booking, or if Sambi had replaced him by then, the booking wouldn't have happened. And as I think it was Neil mentioned it last night when we were chatting, if he hadn't got that booking, he would have been more inclined to put a tackle in to stop the run for Everton's second goal. And the booking was entirely down to tired legs. And I agree, he should not have been on after the hour, especially in a game like that as well. That was high tempo stuff all the way through. You know, it's not like we were playing against Newcastle or Watford or someone like that. That was a tough game. And he should have even come off very close after half time, to be honest.
I agree completely, because I think the commentators even mentioned at one point that it was like a basketball game after they scored their first goal, when it was 1-1, and you've got people like Kieran Tierney and Granit Xhaka on the pitch. No disrespect to them at all, but when you haven't played for such a long time, Arteta isn't stupid. I don't get the decision at all. So, Neil, what were your thoughts on his performance? Because I've seen some comments to say that he's been a bit of a scapegoat, unfortunately.
I mean, you see, and that's his own fault.
Oh yeah,
that's Granit Xhaka's own fault, you know. But at the same time, Granit Xhaka, you know, doing what he does best and picking up a yellow that wasn't deserved. That it was a tackle that really wasn't needed at that point in time in the game. You know, you pick up that yellow card. You still have, you know, so much of the game to go, and oddly enough, he's in the position where Gomez is passed, and he can't touch Gomez. It's an instant red card, and which, you know, was in the build up to the second goal. You know, so it comes back to, you know, why was he on the pitch for so long? Sorry guys, but
that's okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, why is he on the pitch for so long? You have Sambi, he's been playing well. Like, you're at a point now, okay, the tempo of the game is up. Put Sambi on. He's a forward-thinking central midfielder. Why is he benched? He didn't even get a glimpse of the game. You know, so I don't know. It's a big question mark. Big question mark.
Something else I noticed, actually, if I can just jump in there, chaps.
Yeah, of course.
Looking at the heat map. Now, when you've got Sambi and Partey in the middle, it seems very balanced. But looking at those heat maps, you look at the deep red that Xhaka's got on the left-hand side there. It's playing almost as a left wing-back, looking at that. And you would expect that if Partey's mirrored that, all right, it'd leave a huge gap in the middle, but at least there'd be some cohesion, some balance. That, to me, looks really, really unbalanced.
It does. It's that role that Arteta's clearly asked him to play that role, hasn't he? He's done it in the past where the two fullbacks bomb on to double up out wide, and then he jumps in as kind of like a left-sided centre-back with Gabriel as the centre-back. And last season it was Rob Holding or whoever else. This season it's Ben White. But you are right. Even then, it leaves just Thomas Partey in the midfield area on his own. And the game's really, really, really spread at that point. So I don't really see too many other teams doing it. I think when I watched Man City last season, Fernandinho would jump in at centre-back more as opposed to left or right. Rodri does it now. Fabinho does it for Liverpool. McTominay to some extent does it for Man United, and so on and so forth. So it's interesting to see that one of our midfield players go out to the left as opposed to the centre. Now, normally in this section, I'll have 4 key moments. I probably could have had way more, to be fair. We don't need to go through all of these in great detail because I think some of them are fairly obvious. For example, picture number 2 and 3, both goals were ruled out through VAR decisions. I think the picture number 2 for me is once VAR viewed it, it's a little bit more obvious. Everton fans can't really complain too much. Maybe with the red line being more towards the arm of the player, there's a bit of frustration there for Everton fans. But if I was an Everton fan, picture number 3, I was absolutely shocked that was given offside.
I was.
And when they did the close-up, it looks like that both of them have maybe an inch of their foot just over the white line inside the 18-yard box.
Yeah.
But that red line there looks like it's far bigger in terms of the gap, and it doesn't look like that when close up. Neil, what were your thoughts? Do you agree? Number 2, right decision. Number 3, we were lucky not to lose 3-1.
We were lucky not to lose 4.
We were.
Yeah, we were. Those 2 goals were warning shots, and we didn't take heed to it. Look at it's millimeters. You're talking about millimeters off, and which went in our favor. And our manager didn't take heed of it. The players didn't take heed of it, and they came and they scored 2 more goals on top of those offside goals. So
it fired them up, didn't it?
What do you guys think?
It fired them up.
Yeah.
It really fired them up, especially the second one. Keith, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Number 2, fair. Number 3, questionable.
1000%, mate. There's not a fan in the world that can have a problem with the first one being disallowed, but the third one, or number 3, even with VAR, it's like when they were showing it, I was looking at it, I was thinking, well, that's a goal then.
Yeah.
It was my honest opinion. We did get out of jail a little bit because our negative goal difference that we currently got could have been a lot worse. I agree with Neil, and to be honest, if we had lost 3 or 4-1, we can't really complain.
No, it was a horrible performance.
They were a better side.
I'll just like to also add. I would also like to add that third picture of the second goal is on the same level of nonsense with David Luiz's red card against Wolves. That's how fine the margin was. You're talking about a stud touching someone's knee as opposed to a guy's piece of the boot just touching the red line, came offside. That's nonsense. No consistency with VAR. Don't let me even get started with them.
No. Well, the reason why I decided to talk about picture number 2 and 3 first as opposed to picture number 1 is I remember ranting to quite a few people saying that Arsenal never get any fucking decisions when it comes to VAR. Posted a picture on Twitter about it as well, kicking right off, speaking to people, and then obviously we went and got 2 decisions from VAR. So probably shouldn't have done that in hindsight. But as we're on the subject, starting with you, Neil, what are your thoughts on picture number 1? Because I've frozen the picture because this is what I don't like. If you go and have a look on certain social media pages, certain sporting outlets, right, they've frozen their picture with Godfrey's head not facing Tomiyasu at all. They don't allow the video to play with his face where it is there on screen, where you can clearly see that he's looking at Tomiyasu as that boot comes down on his face. What are your thoughts on the situation?
People, I hear a ton of panelists saying, there was no much, but it was there. I saw when his face was there, and then when he looked away to see where the ball was. I mean, if that's not a red card, then I don't know what else they'll continue to allow, because that could have ended pretty badly for Tomiyasu. He could have gotten a broken jaw or a broken collarbone. Look at where the boot is on his face, know. And the officials is there to officiate the game, but to also protect the players. And what is that? Like, come on, what more do they need to see?
Yeah. What? Yeah. Exactly. What more do they need to see in order to? Well, I was more annoyed at the fact that VAR didn't ask for the screen to be used. Because I can understand maybe the referee missing it in real time. I can understand that referees do miss things in real time, and it's one of the reasons why VAR was brought in. I get that. But again, it's why wasn't the referee asked to go and look at the monitor? Because it's a clear and obvious error. Keith, what are your thoughts, mate?
I'm still a little bit shocked with this one. I'm not too sure what Tomiyasu thinks he's doing lying there, goading him on, which is probably why he's... I'm joking. So he is my new favourite figure of hate, this bloke. Ben, isn't it? Ben Godfrey.
Yeah.
I mean, he was at it straight away. He went through Tomiyasu really early. He was after Xhaka for the entire game, which I presume is one of the reasons why Xhaka didn't see the game out, because he got absolutely just beasted by him.
He did.
But this challenge here, it's like, I don't recall. I think I was probably doing something else when this happened, maybe following the ball, same as the ref was. But when you look back and you see the replay, now does it work that VAR say you have to look at this, or do they advise the referee to look at it and he can then say whether he thinks he needs to or not? Whichever way, and even now looking at it, there must be some way that this player can still be penalised for this challenge, because that's an absolute shocker. I don't care that he's giving it the old no look at the end, because you've got a 6'2" bloke wearing a bright red and white football kit lying on green grass. He can still see him with his peripheral vision when he's doing the no look. He meant every bit of that, and I don't believe he apologised or anything. It looks, I didn't see the full clip, but it kind of cuts just as he's done that funny look on his face and he's like this. But it didn't look like he even apologised.
He didn't.
Why wouldn't you apologise if you've accidentally stamped on someone's head? You would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
It's absolutely shocking, and I still don't think we'd have beaten them if they had 10 men. But no. That's disgusting, and you know, this plays into lots of people think there's this conspiracy against Arsenal with referees. I always used to sort of try not to get too involved in that. But the more you go on, you think, well, there's got to be something to it. Because there was the challenge on Nuno in the second half that was studs up, and then he scissored him afterwards.
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, this guy, Godfrey, he should have got a straight red and 2 yellows in the first half alone.
It's mind-boggling. I do not get it really at all.
And like Neil said, that's dangerous. His head's off the ground, so he could have got neck damage. I mean, he had a cut on his face anyway.
He did, yeah.
You know, if his studs get caught in his lip or something, he could rip his mouth open. Could have ended anywhere.
He's very, very lucky. Very lucky not to have been hurt any more than he was. So, it's interesting.
One other thing, very quickly, Jake, if you don't mind. It's tackles like these that cause the players to get into a fight on the pitch. And then the FA is going to be the first one to bust the charges on each club for not controlling their players. When in truth and fact, it's the referee's fault who should have done something about that.
Yeah, no, I agree completely.
It's ridiculous.
I agree completely. Yeah, had Tomiyasu got up and... Sorry?
Surely the lino must have been able to see that.
Yeah, fourth official as well. You know, there's plenty of people around that would have been able to see it. It would have been interesting if Tomiyasu had gotten up and kicked right off, because there are plenty of players out there that would have done. Yeah. Anyway, picture number 4 is a really straightforward one. It was our goal. It was a nice goal. It came at a really, really good time in the game. Not quite the same time that Liverpool scored against us in their game, because you know everyone talked about how great that was. Considering how the game was going, and I thought it was very, very similar in that sense. The game wasn't great for Arsenal, but we managed to nick a goal against the run of play away from home, and I thought, right, this is a great time now for Arteta to get his arms around the lads, rile them up and come out a different team in the second half. But it's just nice to see that Kieran Tierney is involved like he was last season. He was constantly a threat down that left-hand side, and this right here, the way that ball's delivered for me, is the main reason why we need a big, strong striker, similarly to Calvert-Lewin, potentially, who plays for the other side, funnily enough. Nice to see Odegaard, as I mentioned, coming into the box late. Any quick thoughts on this, guys?
Great timing of the run. I mentioned a little while ago, I thought ESR's was timing his runs a lot better, but that's exactly what we want to see. And Tierney's delivery is great. I still believe it's better than Nuno's, even though Nuno's probably slightly better on pace. But the timing of the run, perfect. But yeah, I totally agree. If we had a DCL, those are the sort of balls that he would absolutely lap up. And then, fortunately, DCL wasn't playing last night. He got struggled with Charles.
No, it would have been serious damage.
Yeah.
Anything to add on that, Neil?
Yeah. Funny, it's that we're getting goals from midfield now, and now we're not getting goals from our strikers. It's like we could never balance things off with this team. Yeah. But I'm happy. This is good. Good that it's good. It's good that Odegaard is scoring, and it's gonna give him confidence that every game he plays in, he's gonna want to score. So hopefully, Jake, I just want to let you know I have a hard stop in about 5 minutes.
No problem at all. Well, we've not got long left anyway. There's not much left to talk about. This is the sort of the last section of the stream. Picture number 5 was another one of Everton's goals, the first one. This might be me being sort of hypercritical of Arsenal here, but the reason why I've paused it here, so at this point, the ball has literally just hit the bar. There are 2 Arsenal players and 2 Everton players in shot, in line there or thereabouts. And my frustration here is that Richarlison looks like he's on the run moving forwards, whereas the Arsenal defenders look quite static.
Flat-footed.
All in the same
Flat-footed
position, yeah. And an Everton player gets there first. It's quite frustrating for me. Yeah. I don't know if you guys feel the same.
Yep, very.
Yeah, I would have. I'm shocked Ramsdale didn't scream at those defenders even more.
I think he did actually. I do remember, because when whatever level of football you've played at, you're always taught to follow the ball in. Obviously, a striker wants to follow it in more, much faster, because if you get a ricochet, chances are it's going to go in the goal. So obviously the defenders have to sit off a little bit. But the fact that they're both stood there, and I do remember after it went in one of the replays, you see the look that Gabriel chucks over at, who's the second player?
Tavares,
yeah, because he was on then. The look that he chucks at him, as if to say, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
I think that spoke volumes. But yeah, you can see it from there. They're both literally standing there, whereas Richarlison and the other Everton player, they're on their toes, they're ready to go.
It's frustrating in the sense that, like, I'm not saying that an Arsenal player would have won the header, but at the very least, you'd expect an Arsenal player in the positions that those 4 players are in to be at least making a challenge, putting them under a little bit of pressure, trying to make it difficult for them. The ball still may have ended up in the back of the net, but it's just, again, it's that desire.
Yeah, and I know they did say on telly that it was a difficult header for Richarlison to achieve, which it was. It took an element of skill. But even if you're not getting there first, if he's just got that presence of a red and white next to him, it makes it that much more difficult. And sometimes the presence without the challenges is enough to do the job. I thought Ramsdale might have held that shot, to be honest. I'm a bit disappointed in the boy on that one.
Right, before we get into picture number 6 and 7, because I've literally just looked at the clock and it's 1 minute to 10. Neil, are you still needing to shoot off?
I could spare 5 more minutes.
Perfect. It won't take too much longer. So, picture number 6. There could have been another picture next to this, the Aubameyang one at the end of the game. But this plays into partly why Nketiah was picked over Aubameyang in the first place as the initial substitution. He eventually came on. Pepe still not being used. I think the message is very crystal clear here. He is done. I just don't get picture number 6. It's just everything wrong with Arsenal at the moment. Picture number 6 right now for me is
like
everything.
None of us could score.
Literally, you bring a striker on that doesn't want to be at the club ahead of players that do want to be at the club, and even he can't score. And you're trying to send a message to other players, and it's just like, And any thoughts on this, lads?
That's entirely what he's doing by putting him on his sending a message. But Eddie, mate, it's like the shape of him when he makes the connection is all wrong. You look at his reactions, he's absolutely mortified. He's leaning against the post. You see the look on Lacker's face. There's a cracking picture, and he's like this, like complete disbelief. And like we keep saying, missing so many easy chances. Going back to the Watford game, when I keep going on that Aubameyang cost me 80 quid. He missed sitters going back that far, and I think it must be 5 or 6 goals now that we've missed out on through not just poor finishing, but missing absolutely nailed on sitters.
Yeah. Like
proper Sunday morning pub football sitters.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's difficult to argue with. Anything to add on that, Neil?
I get he's trying to send a message, but you have someone who's perfectly capable of affecting the game, the entire game, just the way he plays, and that's in Nicolas Pepe. He puts crosses in, it ricochets, it goes everywhere. Defenders, they lose their heads sometimes on it. Things can happen when he's on the pitch. He may not be the most disciplined player, I guess. He doesn't do great in training, but that crap, someone who wants to leave the club and you're picking him over players that's wanting to play, I don't understand it. And that's not going to go down well even more with the players. They're not going to be on his side. You're trash talking them in front of the camera. You're picking players who want to be in the club in front of them. Like, what are you trying to do? You're just trying to cause more problems and make things more bad for yourself. So I don't know.
It's an odd one because Pepe as well. He's never come out and said he doesn't want to play for the football club. He's never criticised the club. He's never criticised Arteta. He might not be the best trainer, and I've criticised him at times before over his decision making and stuff like that. But last season, I think he had something like 16, 17 goal contributions for Arsenal, which was like the second most for Arsenal last season.
He was on fire at the end of the season.
Just finished the season really, really, really well. So it just. And even if he started the season badly or hasn't been good over the last few games, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
Anyway, to finish up before we sign off for the evening, picture number 7, it kind of speaks for itself. We spoke about the Xhaka situation, about what could have happened had he have not been on, had he have not had a yellow card. But taking that away from it for just a moment, taking the professional foul away from what could have happened in this goal, is a hell of a strike to score that goal. Was it the 92nd minute, 94th minute, something like that?
94th, I think.
Was there anything apart from what Xhaka could have potentially have done? Was there anything else Arsenal could have done in this situation? Because it was just, for me, it was just a cracking strike of the ball.
Do you want to go first, Neil? I'll keep jumping in.
Let me tell you, I'll go first. Demarai Gray has no right to be shooting from there with that much venom in the shot. For him to have that much time to generate so much power, where are our players?
Yeah.
Where are the Arsenal players? I mean, it's a great. I think it was a great shot. It's up there for goal of the season as well. I think he's a decent player, Demarai Gray. I've said it in my last upload on my last my match preview. I think he's a good player, and I think Everton has a really nice player on their hands, and they have a really good, experienced manager in Rafa Benitez to really guide him. Yeah.
Nice. I would first like to say it's unbelievable that they got Demarai Gray for $2 million. There's actually one of his shirts in my house. My daughter was a Leicester fan for a while. He was her favourite player. He couldn't get a look in there, and now they've got him for $2 million. Firstly, hell of a strike. But it should not have been that easy, especially after he'd done the exact same thing for the first goal that hit the crossbar. Yeah. Read the situation, boys. I mean, Ben White's shutting him down there now, but he's still too far away. He's 20 yards out there.
I think this comes back into what we were talking about earlier. If Arsenal weren't defending so deep,
yeah, I mean, look at them
again. And I know their players have got pace. I get that, and you don't want to be caught off guard and all that rubbish. But other teams do it and get away with it. So why can't Arsenal?
Yeah, and also the fact that they're sat so deep there. I mean, some of them are 10 yards away from the ball there. It affects Ramsdale's vision because they are right on top of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've got to get higher.
Got to get higher. Right. Well, that's about going to wrap things up for this evening. A little bit more ranty than we normally do, but it was due. As I've said, I'm a positive Arsenal fan. You guys are pretty positive about Arsenal as well. Yeah, we rarely moan and swear, and maybe Keith swears a little bit.
I swear quite a lot, to be fair.
But yeah, it's difficult to pick the positives out when games unfold like this, shall we say. But Keith, where can they find you, mate?
Everybody who wants to can find me on Twitter at the Mad Rambling One. I'm pretty much always there, except for today. I've given it a massive miss today, to be honest. Alternatively, you can find me on YouTube on Mostly Arsenal. I tend to post a video at least once a week, so have a look at that. And I like to say that I've got 3/4 of a century subscribers. Instead of saying I've got 75, 3/4 of a century sounds loads better. So yeah, jump on that. Give me some subs, people.
That's it. Don't even think about it, guys. Just head down into the description right now. There's a link to his YouTube channel. Just go and subscribe. Get him up to 100 subs. That would be great. Neil.
And also do the same for Neil and this channel as well, because they're all awesome. Cheers for having me on again, Jake, by the way.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Keith. And it won't be the last time either. So there'll be plenty more shows to come. A roller coaster, no doubt, with Arsenal. Neil, where can they find you, mate?
As Jay has it up there, at Neil Dworka on Twitter. You can also find my YouTube channel, Canon FC. I'm up to 20 subs, people. 20 subs. So we're on our way to 1,000. And thank you again, Jake. Thank you for having me on. And sorry about the outbursts. But it happens, man. I hope that it's not gonna continue like this, where I have these outbursts, because it's frustrating. It's really frustrating.
We need happiness.
It is frustrating, but that's what we love about football. Everyone has a different opinion. Everyone has a different view, and it's nice to share these opinions and talk about it for our mental health. Absolutely as well, especially supporting Arsenal. You've got to. But as I said, it's been a pleasure having both of you on. Head down in the description, guys. Subscribe to their channels. Hit a like on today's stream. I hope you have enjoyed. And no doubt we will be live again after, hopefully, please, a win at the weekend against Southampton. But for now, we are out of here.